The following is a production of the University of Minnesota, driven to discover.
Hi, this is David Arundale, your host for the Peer Assisted Learning Groups podcast. Thanks for spending some time with us today. This episode introduces us to Jill, who's a doctoral student in the medical school at Drexel University in Pennsylvania. Jill shares a variety of strategies that she uses to help her students succeed. She explains how she learns along with her students. Jill advocates that it's not important to know everything about the subject matter to be an effective study group leader. She displays humility in admitting what she does not know as Jill engages in the learning process along with the students. This episode is in the middle of a three-part series featuring the study group program at Drexel University in Pennsylvania. Let's listen in on our conversation.
Yeah, hi. I'm really happy to be here. So I'm Jill. I am a fourth-year PhD candidate who studies molecular and cell biology and genetics. I do research in neurovirology, so like viruses in the brain, but I also am very passionate about my tutoring work and peer academic coaching and study group facilitation work that I do.
And what do you see for your future vocation?
I would really love to be in a sort of professor lecturing role. So whether that would be at an undergraduate institution, a graduate institution, a medical school, I really like teaching science at graduate levels.
Well, what made you decide to want to become a tutor or mentor in your program?
I really love the science and stuff, but I think the thing that makes me the most excited about it is getting to share it with other people and getting to see that sort of spark when something that was really difficult all of a sudden makes sense. And it's just this very rewarding experience getting to share this thing that I find so fascinating with other people.
Do you ever remember back to whenever you were much younger and were doing things where you were kind of informally tutoring or helping other students?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did that in undergrad. I definitely had situations where I would have sort of friends say, hey, could you help me with this? And it would be actually a really great opportunity for me also to sort of learn the information myself if I was struggling. I find that tutoring is sometimes one of the best ways to learn it yourself, or at least to review it. Before that, when I was really little, I used to like to teach things I learned in school to my pets and stuffed animals. So I guess that kind of is sort of foreshadowing my future.
Well, that's not unusual. I find a lot of students had prior experiences, and there is a core inside of them that they like to help and they like to share. And you just expressed that very, very well. Well, it sounds like you have lots of different courses that you may help support through your work. Can you think of just one of the courses that you maybe more often help students in? Name the course, and why is it so challenging?
I'd say there's really two major ones that come up. The first one is in my program, all first-year students have to take a biomedical science core course, which is a very, very difficult, complex, work-heavy course. And students tend to struggle a lot with it because it's just a lot of very in-depth information. So a lot of my tutoring, single appointments, are through that. The other one is that my university has a physician's assistant program, and they have a study group program that I facilitate study groups with them officially, and we work through case studies, and that's another one that is very different from what I normally do, but it's one of my most favorite things to do. It's very rewarding, and it really, you see them in the beginning of the course, and just going through these case studies, you see this development by the end of their semester or quarter.
Well, in your tutoring role, is there some favorite activities that you use in order to help students to open up and to learn the material?
When it's just sort of content, I tend to like a sort of teach me back role where I will have them sort of, wherever they're at, just tell me whatever you know, especially when a student comes in saying, I don't understand any of it. I sort of start out with, tell me anything that you think you know about this topic, and then we'll go into more. For the study groups, I like to do sort of a reenacting case studies. So I'll usually pretend to be the patient, and I will incorporate certain like details that will help them connect what they've learned in class to an actual clinical encounter that they might have someday.
Well, those are really interesting activities. Where did you learn how to be able to do that?
So the teach back thing was something that I used myself when studying for classes in my own personal, like just by myself. I would just kind of talk out loud or draw things on a whiteboard. And I just sort of adapted it so that it could be sort of a two-person activity or something that I could help guide them through. For the study group reenactment thing, I know that in medical schools, that's a huge component of their education, where they have people will come in and pretend to be patients, and it gives them a chance to apply what they've learned in class to real world scenarios. So I thought, well, I can help them with that and do that for these physician's assistant students. And it turns out to be a lot of fun, but also really it leads them to things that they weren't necessarily sure about before. It kind of brings up new questions that we're not sure about, and then we go on to look into. And it's a lot of, it sort of opens up new information to them.
Well, thank you. That's very interesting. It may give some new tools for our listeners that they can use whenever they're working with students. Well, based on your experience as a tutor, mentor, discussion leader, how are you developing personally and professionally from that experience?
So I think that it's helping me sort of get to that point where I could be in an education role. So with the groups, it's helping me learn how to guide a group in a way that feels comfortable for me, since all teachers and professors have a different sort of style. And I think that it's been helping me sort of learn that, whatever that style is for me. I don't want to be some kind of overbearing, dictatorial person, but sort of having that like leadership role in a way that's helpful for them, and how to guide an activity when things kind of like stall and slow down. Another thing is also, a lot of the time when you're at these graduate levels, the educator doesn't know everything either. And that also includes me, where I will have students come in and say, I don't understand how like this extra thing works, or I was wondering about how this could work, and I don't know either. So it kind of confronts me with that scenario that many professors have, where a student asks a question that they don't know the answer to themselves. So it's been sort of helping me learn how to deal with that scenario. So I'll sometimes say, let's look into it together. Let's think about how this could work. And it ends up, I usually come away from the session having learned something myself that I can then use in other sessions.
Very interesting. Well, as we conclude our brief little conversation here, I want to just give you an opportunity to have the final word. Is there something that you'd like to share with the program managers out there at other colleges, the tutors and the discussion leaders? Is there just something that you'd just like to have to share with all of them as the final word of our conversation?
That something I'd point out is there is a lot of benefit to doing things like being in a tutoring or group facilitation role. So if someone out there is sort of considering it, but not sure, like they're not sure exactly maybe what they get out of it, there's a lot that you can get from doing this. It helps you in a lot of other aspects of your life too. It helps you learn how to interact with people who maybe need your assistance, which is not something that is only happening in a school role. That happens in our own lives. It helps you become a patient, more compassionate person. It helps you when a student comes to you and has, a very personal, upsetting event. They'll come to you and talk to you, and it helps you learn how to be that compassionate, non-judgmental person for these people. And you really just get to see these students, even outside of the academic part, just sort of grow as a person. And it's really, really rewarding in so many different ways that even if you're not sure that you don't know the topic well enough to do it, that's not even the most important part. The most important part is your dedication to helping the students learn and, learning along with them.